It is a great time to be an Xyz player. Well, better than usual. It's honestly always great to be an Xyz player. It seems like it's always going to be Konami's favorite extra deck mechanic. They got generic interruptions years before everyone else. But of course, the back end of that is that the generic interruptions Xyz tend to get are always missing something. Like Abyss Dweller can shut off the grave, but it is very easy to kill. Steel Swarm Roach can negate summons, but it's very limited in what it can negate. Photon Strike Bouncer negates a monster on the field, but it doesn't destroy it. Same thing with Giant Hand. Synchros had to wait a lot longer to get generically summonable interruptions, but now that we have them, they do have stronger effects. Crystal Wing negates and destroys, Guts banishes monsters, Stardust Warrior negates way more summons than Roach, and he floats too. In fact, all the synchros I mentioned before have bonus effects that make them stronger, but the Xyz interruptions I talked about only really do the one thing. Of course, every mechanic has its less generic interruptions that can be strong, but when it comes to generically summonable interruptions, with this new mini box, I think that Xyz just hit the mother load. It doesn't even really matter that much what deck you're playing as long as it is a rank 4 deck that doesn't require a specific skill. This is because we just got two new skills that can benefit rank 4 decks, Order of Chaos and Baryon Battle Morph number over 100. I ain't saying that whole damn name again, so rewind if you need to. I'm calling it Battle Morph from now on. In Zexal, there's a way to upgrade Xyz into stronger versions that have really great effects. The issue is though that in order to make this happen, you need a rank up magic spell card, and it's not like we have anything in the game that can search for them, so if we want to use them, we have to hope to draw them. But they're also pretty bricky, so in the end it isn't really worth it. But these two new skills basically give us rank up magic spells for free, so we don't have to worry about bricking on them, and we don't have to worry about whether or not we will draw them. So between these two, I do believe that there is a good reason to choose one over the other, depending on the deck, but I'll talk about the benefits of each compared to each other to help you decide. And then I'll give some deck lists and show some replays for both skills to show off how the skills look in actual game. Both of these skills require you to control a particular Xyz in order to get the rank up magic. Without getting too complicated into it, for Order of Chaos you want to get Utopia on the field, and for Battle Morph you want to get Giant Hand on the field. And you can use a skill to get whichever rank up magic the skill gives you, and using it you can rank up your Xyz. You generally want to rank up Utopia into Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray, and you are going to rank Giant Hand into Giant Red Hand. Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray can detach material to equip a ZW monster from your main or extra deck to itself. The effect to equip it can't be negated, and while it's equipped it has a quick effect to target a monster on the field and negate it and cut its attack in half permanently. The ZW monsters you can equip to it will also grant it bonus effects like untargetability, indestructibility, a bonus monster negate, a bonus trap negate, or a bonus attack. This is pretty damn strong considering that all you had to do to pull this off was to put 2 level 4 monsters on the field. Giant Red Hand, simply put, is an Omni negate, meaning it can respond to any card type, monster, spell, or trap, and in response it will negate all other face-up cards on the field. So of course it will negate the card it's responding to if that card is on the field, and it will also negate any of their other cards that you don't want to deal with. I should mention though that this isn't an effect that you can say no to, meaning that as soon as either player activates a card effect, it will activate immediately without giving you a choice, so it is pretty difficult to wield. In the right deck though, this may not matter. There are a couple of weaknesses between these two skills though, despite the fact that the payoffs are so good. Order of Chaos locks you into level and rank 4 monsters and Utopia monsters. If your deck does rank 4 Xyz, but it also summons things other than rank 4 Xyz, then your deck won't really work with this skill. Battle Morph doesn't have that level and rank restriction. However, you can't use it on the first turn of the duel, and then of course Giant Red Hand is a mandatory effect, so your deck might not be capable of working alongside it. Both of these skills though do have some benefits separate from each other though, so I'll talk about those real quick. With Order of Chaos, if you control Utopia, you can set a rank up magic limited Baryon's Force from your deck or grave, meaning basically that if you've already used your copy of limited Baryon's Force, you can set it again on another turn with a skill, because it turns out the skill isn't actually once per duel. All of its effects are just once per turn. There is that downside that you do have to actually play the copy of limited Baryon's Force in your deck, but there is more benefit to this skill because it also has 2 other effects. In order to understand those effects though, we're going to talk about the newly released card V Salamander. It has a couple effects, but the main thing is that on normal summon, it will revive a Utopia monster. It's kind of cool that if your Utopia gets in the grave somehow, you'll be able to bring it back with this later on to rank it up into another rank up monster. The skill actually wants to make it even easier than that though, because one of its effects lets you reveal V Salamander in your hand in order to put a Utopia into the grave from outside of the game, ripe to be revived with that Salamander. But if your deck really relies on a normal summon, so you wouldn't be able to really take advantage of the Salamander, then the next effect of the skill lets you shuffle up to 2 cards from your hand and or field to the deck. Then if there are no monsters on the field, you can normal summon V Salamander in addition to your regular normal summoner set. Technically speaking, if your opening hand has V Salamander in it, you could reveal it to put a Utopia in grave, normal summon the V Salamander to revive Utopia, and use the skill to get the rank up magic and rank it up into one of his upgraded forms. And if if you wanted to do more than that with your normal summon, you could also shuffle one card from your hand into your deck in order to gain the bonus normal summon for the V Salamander. If you wanted to play through interruptions and you have cards on the field already, you can shuffle those into the deck so that you have nothing on the field so that the V Salamander can be normal summoned. And then you could normal summon that V Salamander, revive that Utopia, and make another play. There is a good chance though that you might save V Salamander for a follow-up, but it is cool that just by itself it can get something going. It's not like V Salamander is searchable though, so it wouldn't be a good idea to make a deck with just the V Salamander and no other rank 4 strategies. V Salamander does actually do a bit more though, and it relates to Utopia's other rank up form, Utopia Ray V. You could go into this instead of Ultimate Leo, or you could do it the turn after you summon the Ultimate Leo as a follow-up play. Remember that you can get back the same rank up magic that you used on our previous turn with the skill. And what Ray V does is it can detach a material to destroy an opponent's monster and burn your opponent for half of that monster's attacks. But if you revived Utopia with V Salamander, it will just have the one material, being Utopia itself. But V Salamander also has the effect to equip itself to Utopia Ray V, then V Salamander can negate Ray V, but also detach a material from it to destroy all the opponent's monsters and burn the opponent for 500 damage for each monster destroyed. The Utopia will be negated, but there's a good chance that it will be able to attack for game. The effect of the skill to shuffle cards from hand and field into the deck to give V Salamander a free normal summon might also be nice if your deck happens to have cards you would prefer to have in your deck rather than your opening hand. For example, the main deck Zexal weapons. Most of the time, you'd prefer to equip them from the deck with Ultimate Leo, so putting them into the deck feels pretty free. So the skill also has a bit of anti-brick mechanism to it. Since this skill has such easy access to powerful starting play and a follow-up play, and even has a nice and easy way to OTK, the only downside of this skill being that you can't normal summon anything that isn't a rank 4, level 4 or Utopia monster. I do believe that this is the better of the two skills by far for any deck that can take advantage of it, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if a deck using this skill ends up doing well in the KC Cup. Just because I said that Order of Chaos is the better of the two skills doesn't mean that Battle Morph is an unplayable skill. We still got to keep in mind that there are rank 4 decks out there that want to summon something other than level 4s, rank 4s, and Utopia monsters. Maybe your deck also has Link, Synchro, or Fusion capabilities, or maybe your deck also wants to make other ranks with your Xyz. I will admit, though, that the fact that you can't use this skill on the first turn of the duel is a pretty big deal. That said though, if you went second with the skill, you could summon Giant Hand with a couple level 4s, and use the skill to get the rank up magic Variance Force to make Giant Red Hand. Then if the opponent wants to interrupt your plays, it will have to deal with an Omni Negate. You'll also be negating cards on your own field, and the first effect that you activate will also trigger the negate, but an Omni Negate that doesn't destroy can be quite nice to protect your combo pieces from being removed in the middle of your combo. Chances are, as a rank 4 deck, you're only going to be negating your own monsters that are going to be used as Xyz material anyway, with whatever extenders in hand or grave you have to keep playing with, so it often isn't going to be that big of a deal. If you went first with this skill though, of course, you won't be able to use it. You can summon the regular Giant Hand as a turn 1 interruption. Giant Hand has certainly proven itself as a solid turn 1 option for decks that can summon it, and if it happens to survive until your follow-up turn, you can get the rank up magic Variance Force with the skill and go into Giant Red Hand to protect your follow-up play from whatever they've set up. And since you'll have priority, the only thing they'll be able to do is respond to the rank up magic activating, and if they have a way to stop it, then that's an interruption used that won't be used against your follow-up play. If you want to use the Order of Chaos skill, but you can't think of what deck it might work well in, consider these things. 1. Does the deck need another skill to function? If yes, it won't work with this skill. 2. Does the deck summon anything other than rank 4s or level 4s? If yes, then it won't work with the skill. 3. Does the deck lock you into summoning particular types of monsters that would conflict with the cards the skill wants you to use? If yes, then it won't work with the skill. If your deck meets all the criteria for fitting well with the skill, then that's fantastic, and here are the cards you probably should be playing if you want to use this skill before putting in your deck's own engine. If you're having some trouble figuring out what deck you might like to use it with this skill though, I have built a few: Sharks, Onomats, and Yosenju. All of these decks have inherent ways to get a bunch of level 4s on the field. If you have any of these decks, then I'm sure you'll know how simple it is to play them. Me personally, I feel that the Sharks are the best engine to use alongside this skill, since they can pump out rank 4s really damn well, damn consistently without any skill to help it, and there are also a decent amount of extenders you can play to help you play through interruptions. Here I'm using Tenri Spirit Shithana since it is a level 4 water extender, and I'm using Silent Angler, which is the same, except Shithana is something that you summoned before everything else, and a Silent Angler is something you summon after everything else. You don't actually have to play ZS Arm Sage or V Salamander in this deck if you don't want to, because this deck is good enough at pumping out rank 4s on its own. But these cards are just so good with a skill that the option is there. You could play back row instead of any amount of them though. Onomats, of course, is incredibly consistent with all of its search spells. Getting a bunch of rank 4s is also going to be pretty easy with this. I think that just like the Shark deck, this engine is also pretty capable of playing through interruption, just not as many interruptions as the Sharks can play through, I think. The Yosenju version is probably the cheapest version you can get, but also not that great at playing through interruption, and Yosenju does have a bit of brick potential, but they do have pretty toolboxy effects that can help you out against certain situations before using them as Xyz material. Because of the bricky nature of the deck and the fact that it isn't amazing at playing through interruptions, I don't have Sage in here, and I instead have Cosmic Cyclone and Book of Moon to help play against those interruptions. You may have noticed that with all three of these decks, the extra decks are exactly the same, because I'm playing the stuff that you want to play for the skills game plan, of course, but I'm also playing one of each of all the best rank 4s in the game. Giant Hand, Abyss Dweller, and Stillstorm Roach as additional interruptions to go alongside your ultimate Leo. Gastella and Lightning are great going second cards when it's time to break boards or OTK. There's also a lot of ZW weapons you can choose for this deck, but these are the ones that I think are best to play. If you have more room, you could play this one as well if you wanted. The main ones that you want are the ones that protect from targeting and the one that protect from destruction. One of them grants you a bonus negate, but protection is going to be better than a bonus negate a lot of the time, because we don't want our negates to be turned off by Book of Moon. If you are watching this video in the future and some better Xyz have come out, feel free to make your own decisions for your extra deck based on what is best in the time period you are watching this in, if the skill hasn't been nerfed by then. If you want to use Battle Morph, of course, that must mean that your deck can make rank 4s, but doesn't meet the criteria for Order of Chaos. Maybe you're a deck that makes rank 4s, but you also Synchro Summon, Link Summon, or Fusion Summon. Maybe even multiple of these, and you don't have a skill that your deck requires in order to play properly. Battle Morph is going to make going second a much easier task for you, and I mean, might as well get an Omni Negate going second if your deck doesn't have any other skill, right? If you already have a deck in mind for this skill, that's great. I have a couple in mind myself: Six Samurai, Magistus, and Salamangreat. I think Six Samurai is a pretty good option, because the downside of Giant Red Hand negating your own cards is definitely a big deal for the Six Samurai continuous spells, but Six Samurai has had somewhat of an issue going second for a while now, and if we can bait out interruptions with it before doing other things, or better yet, go into our other things and then go into Giant Hand, then we are going to be pretty threatening. You could even go into Giant Hand first, the regular one, then do the rest of your plays, and then at the very end, since you won't have any other different rank 4s on the field, you could activate the skill to go into Giant Red Hand, so none of your stuff gets negated, and the first thing they do gets negated. Of course, it would just be one out of the many rank 4 options, but considering before this skill, the skill for this deck was Ties That Bind, I think there's no issue with having this skill just be something we can pull out when we need it, and ignore when we don't need it, since the skill doesn't have any main deck requirement. I've been intending on making an update to Magistus since they got their new Xyz, but I just haven't had a chance to yet, so if you've been waiting for that, I'll give a super quick update here, then talk about what Giant Hand might give it. I've seen plenty of people playing pure Magistus using the new Xyz to help them more easily go into Iwis. The thing is though, that if you've seen our Magistus Advanced Guide, we didn't actually have any issues going into Iwis. In fact, it was so easy that we were actually able to consistently set up Iwis and a rank 4 as a very standard combo that pretty much any hand could achieve. And of course, the deck could also follow up into more card advantage. The new Xyz, by going for its effect, it actually locks you into the archetype, and the deck just has such a lower ceiling if you use this Xyz that way. You're literally nerfing yourself by summoning this new Xyz turn 1. Your board will be weaker. Of course, if you are using Magistus as an engine in other decks that can get their plays going before using it, like Odd Eyes, it's absolutely fine, but in pure Magistus, the combos the deck is capable of going into just don't allow it to be used in a way that doesn't nerf you. That doesn't mean we don't plan on using it, of course. It's just that we will use it a little bit differently. Of course, you could equip it directly from the extra deck to negate an opponent's monster to make your plays easier, but the majority of the time that isn't going to be very helpful. Instead, our turn 1 game plan is going to be exactly the same as it is shown in the Magistus Advanced Guide. Go ahead and check that out, by the way, if you haven't already. Your Magistus win rate will increase dramatically if you watch it, but on the follow-up play, we can more easily go into a rank 4, then follow up into a Fusion Summon. So turn 2, we will go into the Xyz as our follow-up play, of course, use it to summon Ver from the deck, search our Invocation, and use them both both to go into our second copy of Iwis, steal another of their monsters, and attack in most likely for game. And this game plan could be potentially made easier if on turn 1 we summon Giant Hand. Then if it survived, we could rank it up at the start of our turn into Giant Red Hand to protect your plays from your opponent's interruptions. But of course, when you start going into your new rank 4 and they want to interrupt your material so that you can't go into it, you can of course negate it, because you can always use the grave effect of Crowley after that to re-equip Artemis to one of your materials to get your next material. Since that's a grave effect, Giant Hand won't be preventing it. If the opponent knows how to interrupt you properly though, and they use their interruptions at a more awkward time, at the end of the day, you are still negating their whole field. And if they want to interrupt Giant Red Hand himself, that's another interruption you don't have to deal with. It is also important to note that Giant Red Hand's negate is only until the end of the turn. So if you're going second and you're going for the normal play and you have the materials for a rank 4 and you are ready to fusion summon, then you can fusion summon, then summon Giant Red Hand, use the skill to go into Giant Red Hand, and if they want to use their effects after that, then you can negate that with a Giant Red Hand. You can also chain your own Iwis to your Giant Red Hand to take one of their monsters. You'll still be getting value from your Iwis, so that you can go in for game on a later turn. And if you don't want to do it that turn, you can of course do the exact same thing on your opponent's turn. Just keep in mind that when Giant Red Hand resolves, your opponent will control their monster again, but at the end of the turn, their monster will return to you. Salamangreat, to be honest, it's not like Salamangreat necessarily needs this. After all, its own skill is pretty good, but I think that it is worth at least mentioning that it's possible to use this skill with a deck, considering it does go into rank 4s. It could also potentially give this deck a little bit more explosivity, but of course the extra deck space is pretty tight, so maybe if we got more extra deck space, or if the skill were to be buffed, then people would be much more willing to accept it. I also have to mention that the skill can be used to get your number Xyz that are banished during your grave back into the extra deck to be summoned again in grindy games. That's a nice cherry on top of everything else. I've got a couple replays just to show off how the skill works in a duel, one from Order of Chaos and one from Battle Morph, so you know exactly what's going on with these skills, and I'll be using the decks that I feel these skills work the best in. Alright, so this is the first skill here. We're talking about Order of Chaos right now with the sharks. Here's the list, of course. We're going against tunes here. And since we're going first, we're going to use the starter Beautiful Princess to get out the Buzzsaw Shark. That's going to activate right away to get an Angler from the deck. And we're going to go right into Utopia. We have another extender here, but we don't really have a way to, like, you know, get another level 4 on the field. We could return the Tornado Bringer back into the deck to get a bonus normal summon for the V Salamander, but I don't really care for that because I do want to actually get both of my equips. So that's basically the plan here. So I'm going to get the limited Barrier Force, turn Utopia into our Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray. Hell yeah, broken. It's going to equip the guy that makes him indestructible. I'm also going to equip the guy who makes him untargetable. So now he's untargetable, indestructible, and he can target to negate something and nerf something. So there's that. So he's playing tunes. He's got the bookmark. He's going to search the Comic Hand, but he can't activate Comic Hand because he can't target me. So there's that. But he's going to activate the Toon World after searching for it. Then he's going to activate Page Flip to summon one from deck. Toon Dark Magician, Toon Dark Magician Girl, or Blackluster Soldier. He gets the Toon DMG, which can attack this turn. He's also going to get the Red Eyes, who can't, but he also summons a Toon DMG from the hand. So now he's basically got lethal if he attacks with both of these guys, since he has a Toon World. When he enters the battle phase though, I'm going to target one of them to negate them and reduce them. Not only does that put him in lethal range, well, I guess he was already in lethal range, right? But basically it negates it. It also negates the part that lets him attack directly. So he can only attack with one of them. So it just becomes my turn again. I got another starter. I'm trying to flex here. I think he's going to scoop here, but anyway, I'm going to reveal, get that V Salamander to revive the Utopia, get the rank up spell back, activate that rank up spell to get the OTK Ray V on the field. Here comes the Ray V. I'm going to equip the V Salamander, and I think that's where he scoops. So yeah, GG's. Okay, so right now I am playing Battle Morph Salamangreat, and ironically, I'm actually going against Order of Chaos Utopia here, so there we go. Sign Up Mighty's gonna discard the Jack Jaguar, searching that Gazelle. I could have activated the Foxy first, but I didn't feel like it. It's not that deep. Foxy's still gonna get something, and it would have been the same thing regardless. At the end of the day, I do like having Jack Jaguar in grave, you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm gonna add that Foul here. Also, deck thinning is deck winning. Gonna go into that Balinx, gonna trigger that Foul to summon itself from the hand, and also I'm gonna search for that field spell real quick as well. So that's gonna happen. Then the Gazelle and the Balinx can go into the first copy of Sunlight Wolf. I can activate that Sanctuary, go into the second copy by reincarnation link summoning the Sunlight Wolf here. Then I can activate the Jaguar Engrave, returning the first Sunlight Wolf, of course, because we do want to reincarnation link summon again, especially because this one's probably going to get negated. Reincarnation link summoning it, or just link summoning it in general, is going to be good. So yeah, the Falco is going to return the Foul to hand for next turn. I'm going to go into a rank 4 Giant Hand to negate something from him. I can set that Cosmic Cyclone in my turn. I got some decent protection here. His turn, he's going to use his Utopic Onomatopoeia. I'm not going to negate it because it's not really that worth it. He's going to use the Castell. I don't really have a choice but to negate this one. He's going to bait me out. I'm going to negate him. But because some of the main greats were sent to my grave, I do get to trigger the Gazelle to summon itself, send a card from deck to grave, but also trigger the Foul because the Salamangreat Great was summoned. So a lot of protection and follow-up going on here. I'm also going to be able to add back a card, and I'm going to add back the Jaguar because I can always discard it again with the Foxy next turn to get rid of the face-up continuous, the face-up equip ZW that he's obviously going to get. So here he gets this. He's going to equip something. I'm going to Cosmic it right away because otherwise I'm going to be in lethal range. He's still going to reduce me though. Negate and reduce me. So he actually hasn't used the skill yet because he actually happened to hard open the limited variance force, meaning that the skill can get it back for him still. He's going to be able to shuffle back this and then normal summon the V-Salamander, get back his Utopia, and then get back the rank up magic too to go into it again. Absolutely busted, bro. So he's going to be able to equip another ZW to itself and also negate something. So he's going to equip the one that makes him untargetable. But if he targeted this one, right, I'd be in lethal range. But the thing is that you can't, because it says that negate and if you do reduce its attack, but you can't negate something that's already negated. That's a little known rule of Yu-Gi-Oh, that if something is currently negated continuously, you can't use an effect to try to negate it. So it has to negate one of my other defense mode cards. He is just barely off lethal. I don't protect the Sunlight Wolf, otherwise the V-Salamander would go for lethal, but I do protect the Gazelle, and it's on me now. So I'm going to go into my Sunlight Wolf here, and I'm going to use my skill to get my Baryon mode on, get my my Baryon Force here, the original Baryon Force, go into Giant Red Hand, hell yeah. And now the first thing I activate on the field is going to cause me to automatically negate. I won't have a choice. The main thing is though, this guy can't negate me. That's the main thing. If he does try to negate me, I will automatically negate him. So my plays are pretty much safe. Even if I am negating my own cards at the same time as negating him, the main thing is that he cannot safely activate Utopia Ray. But Foxy doesn't activate in the hand anyway. Or sorry, it doesn't activate on the field anyway. It activates in the grave. So when it destroys a card, it's a grave effect, even though it's on the field when it happens. So he won't be able to negate this. Jaguar, we're going to return the Sunlight Wolf to summon itself, which is going to activate the Sunlight Wolf. I don't actually care whether or not this Sunlight Wolf activates. I'm just saying yes to get this negate out of the way. Not only am I negating him, I'm negating myself so that I can keep going unnegated after this. All good. Then I can use the Falco to return the Foxy to the hand, so I got more materials. I can go into any rank 4. Technically, I could have used the skill to return Giant Hand from grave back into the deck and go into Giant Hand again. No need for that though. I'm just going to go into Dweller, normal summon the Foxy, can't use its effect since I already used the grave effect. Go into the Unicorn, discard the card I top decked to get rid of his Utopia, and I got lethal on board, bro. Check that out. 100 life points. And I just won the game. So you guys, XYZ are eating well right now. If you guys have any ideas for decks that one of these skills would work well with, or you have any questions about the skills, be sure to leave them in the comments and we can talk about it. If you like the video, then slap like now, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell to get notified every time we make a new video. Have yourselves a good one. I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low-key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the weatherman. I ain't asking to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon, they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.